This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We'll call to order the MPO Policy Board meeting for Thursday, April 10th, 2025, here at 2 o'clock p.m. And we will conduct a roll call to get the meeting started. Aaron Easter.
Present.
Jody Hamilton. Okay, my sheet says she is going to be here, but we'll check her off for now. David Byers.
All right, go ahead and say.
Okay, my sheet says she is going to be here, but we'll...
You can say you're present. Oh, yeah, he did. Sorry, we're behind on the screen.
David Byers, yes.
Okay, I see Aaron on the screen there. So we'll mark her down as being present. Gary Schroeder.
Present.
Steve Snyder.
Present.
And I show tentatively for either Larry Leverns or Kathy Parker. Is either one of those
here.
present? Okay,
Kathy's
Kathy. Thank you. Cindy Murray.
Here.
Mike Gibson.
Present.
And Scott Chandler.
Present.
All right, thank you, everyone. We have a good quorum, good-sized quorum today. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Those have been communicated to you in your packet, and I hope you've had a chance to look through those. And I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or changes? Hearing none, we'll conduct a roll call vote on the approval of the minutes. Aaron Easter.
Aye.
Jody Hamilton. I see Jody, but I can't hear her. Okay, got a thumbs up there. David Byers.
Aye.
I see Jody, but I can't hear her. Okay. Gary Schroeder.
Aye.
Steve Snyder.
Aye.
Kathy Parker.
Aye.
Cindy Murray.
Aye.
Mike Gibson.
Aye.
Scott Chandler.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is Resolution T25-04, a resolution to amend the 2024-2028 Transportation Improvement Program. And MDOT has some new projects, and Doug will be explaining that one.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. We have received a request from the Indiana Department of Transportation, as the mayor pointed out, to program 6 new projects in our current TIP. Individually, they are basically maintenance projects. First one is a signal installation repair project. It's various locations within the district, but one particular in our county is at State Road 38 and Veterans Memorial Parkway. We have several signal modernization projects. One is, again, a various location district project, and there are 3 specifically on US 52, Ross Road, Teal Road, and Dale Drive. And then we also have a small pipelining project on I-65. The specific details for all of the projects, including the DES number, contract number, location, the phase of which the federal funds are being requested, as shown on the screen, are in the staff report. The Technical Transportation Committee reviewed this request. Their meeting last month and recommended approval by this policy board, and we're asking for your approval as well. Are there any questions or comments?
All right, thank you, Doug. Hearing none, we will conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2504. Aaron Easter,
Aye.
Jody Hamilton, David Byers,
Byers? Oh, he's gone. Dave Byers says aye.
okay, Gary Schroeder,
Aye.
Steve Snyder,
Aye.
Kathy Parker,
Aye.
Cindy Murray,
Aye.
Mike Gibson,
Aye.
Scott Chandler.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is Resolution T2505, a resolution to adopt the 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program. And Tim will be going over that.
Yes, so this is similar to something that we do every year. There are a few differences this year that I will explain momentarily, but to kind of generally go over this. So the Unified Planning Work Program is something that we are federally required to put together that explains how we spend some of our federal transportation money that we call PL money, and also some 5303 money. So this document is required to demonstrate how we're going to spend that and to make sure that it's being spent on appropriate transportation planning work. So we do have some financial information in here about how much we get, overhead rates, and so on. And so all of that is detailed in there. We kind of have gone over that part before. So unless there are questions, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But the part that's a little bit different this time is what we're actually asking you to do as an action. In the past, when we would bring this document to you, at this point, it would pretty much be substantially complete, and all comments we had received from NDOT, FTA, and FHWA would have been addressed. However, because of some of the executive orders that have come down from the presidential administration in Washington, this year we have addressed everything that we know about up to this point, but there are still some changes that may be coming in the pipeline that we're not sure about yet. So what we're asking you to do is to adopt the UPWP pending further comments from commenting agencies. And if we do get those comments, then we want your authorization to just address those with the commenting agencies, as opposed to having to bring this back to you every time we get some new comments from them based on new guidance. So now it's a little bit different than usual, so I want to open up the floor for questions and make sure everybody understands that.
Would there be, this Mike Gibson, would there be significant dollar changes possible?
It wouldn't so much be in the dollars that we get, it would be in the scope of the work that we do. So for example, there's certain language that we've had to remove per the executive orders, and there is some that we have left in there that's kind of in a gray area, so to speak, that we're unsure about. So really all it does is it modifies slightly the scope of the work that we do. It doesn't change the dollar amount. It just changes what we are and aren't allowed to do with that money very slightly. But the overall dollar amount shouldn't change. That's locked in.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? We'll give you ample opportunity here. So that since this is different than we've done in the past, but I understand the position that they're in. So anybody else got any concerns?
Do we happen to know the timeline on when we might receive these other comments? Perhaps?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the state, NDOT Central Office, from what I understand, does hope to have these all locked down by the end of the fiscal year so that they can issue purchase orders. So theoretically, We would hope that changes would come in by that point. However, we are kind of allowed to amend this document at any point in time. So if it is past that deadline and we get additional guidance, then we may actually have to come back to you with an amendment. Again, it's all very uncertain. So that's the most updated guidance that we as the MPOs have gotten from INDOT.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim, the only question I have is, I do want that the area plan taken from the standpoint is, and I know you would, but if something does come up, we approve this, that you do really think we should know about, I would appreciate you guys making sure that this board is notified of that in some way, to make sure that we are aware of what's taking place. I don't have any trouble voting for this today, but just with the understanding that it is something I want to make sure it is brought to this board's attention.
Yep, I think that's very fair, and we would be happy to do that if that is requested.
All right, any other comments? All right, hearing none, we'll conduct a roll call vote. Aaron Easter,
Aye.
Jody Hamilton. I saw a thumbs up. David Byers. Gary Schroeder,
Aye.
Steve Snyder,
Aye.
Kathy Parker,
Aye.
Aye.
Cindy Murray,
Aye.
Mike Gibson,
Aye.
Scott Chandler.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Thank you, everyone. The next item on the agenda is the APC progress report, and under that is MPO update. There are several items there, all of which Doug will be handling. So, Doug, please go through those, ask for questions at the end of each one. If you don't hear any, please feel free to continue on.
Hey, again, thank you, Mayor. The first item I'd like to bring to your attention is a status report regarding the development of the new 2026 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program. Again, the draft document is up and available on our webpage. Since the last meeting, we have received comments from the Federal Highway Administration. They were very, very minor. They just asked what our tables specifically were, basically reminded us to continue to document public comment, and then recommended our tables that show the projects be similar in format to what is NDOT's table format used in their STIP. We replied to all of those, and just following up on the last one, we gave a fairly detailed explanation that our tables are designed for the public in mind, so it's easy for them to find a project or figure out a project, whether it be on the NDOT side or on the local side. We had a discussion regarding showing the funding and showing what year, and we felt like we have addressed all of their comments, and of course all of this is documented in the document. The one thing I'd like to mention that Tim alluded to a bit is that last Friday, the Federal Highway Administration had a video meeting with all of the MPOs in Indiana, and due to the executive orders from the president, we are to remove a number of different words from the document and any analysis related to that. And they said if we did not, our new tips will not be approved. So we have gone through and scrubbed the draft document of those analyses and wording, and we now have it internally for our review. If you would like to see that, we'd be more than glad to show you the additional information. In addition to that, we also created a secondary document. So if there is any question as to what changes were made, what words were to be removed, we also put one of those together. We plan on putting the updated draft document on the website tomorrow because we do want to keep this in progress. We have a very tight timeline to get it approved because of NDOT's deadline with the STIP. Matter of fact, next week at the Technical Transportation Committee, we are looking at starting the adoption process and asking them for their approval to the policy board, and we hope to bring the draft tip for your review and hopeful recommendation at our next meeting. And again, just following up, if you'd like to see the draft document with the wording changes, we'd be more than glad to show that, as well as if you'd like to see the companion document that we put together to that outlines all of the changes that were made. So please just let us know. I'm sorry, any questions or comments? Okay, moving on to our next item or topic, NDOT LPA contracts and federal funds. We have learned here about a week and a half ago that there is discussion regarding the NDOT LPA contract and the actual dollar amount that the MPOs obligated or will obligate specific federal funds, that there are other state agencies that want the specific dollar amount to match. So the number in the NDOT LPA contract needs to be the same as what we show in the tip. At this time, NDOT is not wanting to move forward on that to give us flexibility, because if that is the case and we do have to do that, that will delay project implementation. So we just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. Right now, that's not moving forward, but there are several state agencies that would like to see that. Any questions or comments regarding that?
Yeah, Doug, just so you could outline it for everyone, if that were to be passed, approximately how much would that delay individual projects?
Sure, Tim. If we were updating the tip, for example, and added additional federal funds, let's say for an example, a preliminary engineering or PE contract, we can do that in the tip and then ask the STIP to be updated. But then we would have to go through the process of updating the NDOT LPA contract. The request would have to be submitted to the district. The district would then submit it to the other individual agencies, specifically one of them being the Attorney General's office, and that could delay moving forward by 6-8 weeks or even more. So generally, in moving through the NDOT LPA contract for all the additional review by the other state agencies, it does take a significant amount of additional time. Any other comments or questions?
Scott, do you have anything you would like to add to that?
I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, going on to our next item, federal funding obligation. I have some very good news to report on this. As of yesterday morning specifically, we have received word that all of our fiscal year 25 funding has been obligated. So we have, I see Aria just had a hands up for Brian.
No, thank you. Please continue. I hit the wrong button.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to make sure I got that. So anyway, the good news is that all of our fiscal year 2025 federal funds have been obligated before the deadline, which is coming up fairly quick. It's coming April 24th. The good news is that the last two pieces of information we were waiting for what was the NDOT LPA contract for the Soldiers Home Road Phase 2 project for the engineering, as well as for the engineering for the emergency vehicle preemption project. I have been in contact. I'm not sure if you know her, Kathy Eaton McCall. She is over NDOT's local program. I've been regularly communicating with her, and we are not in the same boat. There was actually at least 300 other NDOT LPA contracts that were being processed, not only from other MPOs, but from also rural towns and counties. And actually, not only her, but also what I've heard is NDOT executive staff went to bat for all of us and actually pushed through all of these contracts at record lightning speed that I have never seen previously. So with their help, especially from Kathy, so if you know her and see her, please thank her for her help. But all the federal funds for this fiscal year have been allocated. Any comments or questions? Okay, moving on to the last item, NDOT's 18-month letting list. Of course, the big question is what happened yesterday to the State Road 225 Truss Reconstruction Project? Well, the bids were open. There were two bids for this project. One was from a construction firm based out of Chicago. Its bid, and this was the low bid, was $21.78 million. The other project was a firm that I've never heard of out of actually Florida, and their bid was at $35.29 million. I'd like to point out that this is just not for the 225 project. This is also for another truss reconstruction project elsewhere in the state. So there were two bridge projects for this project. So unfortunately, with those two bids being at those amounts, they were over the engineer's estimate. And I'm not sure. Maybe Scott would be able to help with what's going on with that, but at least for now, I don't know. So that's what the status from the bid letting results from yesterday.
Well, after I fainted when I saw the bids, our experiment to combine the projects didn't quite work the way we liked. As of today, we are moving the 225 project back to a standalone project because that is our priority. And we are going to move it into fiscal year 26 and try to, I think right now we're trying to figure if this is more than just a competition and resource issue, if there are other things that we can do in the contract to make it easier to sell. So as we're doing research on that, we're going to turn this around and let it as a standalone project again as quickly as we can. We haven't decided what month that will be yet. But we're going to keep moving with 225 as the priority and try to get it let as quickly as we can.
Scott, how much was it over the bid?
So the two bridges together, the second bridge is on 163 in the southern part. The two of them, with our engineer's estimate, is in the $12 million range. So they are, yeah. So when you hear a low bid of 21, that doesn't sound real low as to what we were anticipating. And a lot of it, we believe, is a result of there just aren't a lot of companies that do this work that are free to do the work right now. There's a couple of projects, I believe a big one in Seymour District currently, and the sub-consultant doing that work is booked all the way through this season and into next year. So there just aren't a lot of folks available to bid. So that's something that we are trying to work out.
What is the engineer's estimate just on the 225 bridge?
It is currently around $7 million.
Okay.
Yep. So it could be that we just, because of the nature of competition, that number just isn't going to be good enough, but what is the appropriate number and how do we structure the contract to make it more palatable? But our plan is to our plan is to get it out there as quickly as we can with something that we think will be favorable.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for that additional information. We appreciate it. Doug, is there anything else under the 18-month letting list?
The only other, basically, I'd like to point out just two other items. If you look on the list, you will see projects 10, 11, and 12, 9th Street. The first portion of reconstructing that section of 9th Street. And at the very bottom is a new project, and it involves the work at the Indiana Veterans Home. And that basically is all I had to point out. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Doug. We appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is other business. Anybody that's present today have anything they'd like to bring before the board? All right. Hearing none, if we could check if there's any citizens' comments, and if there is not, if we could start the 1-minute waiting period, please.
Okay, I am timing for 1 minute. There are no public comments on Facebook or YouTube at this time.
Thank you very much. With there being no other business and no citizen comments, I would entertain the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second. I have a second from Steve. Thank you. Conduct a roll call vote. Aaron Easter,
Aye.
Jody Hamilton, David Byers,
Aye.
Gary Schroeder,
Aye.
Steve Snyder,
Aye.
Kathy Parker,
Aye.
Cindy Murray,
Aye.
Mike Gibson,
Aye.
Scott Chandler.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.